a quote from an NFL executive anonymously on Aaron Rodgers. Seems like a good person, but he might be more trouble than he's worth. That's a two-time MVP. He was the reigning two-time MVP before Mahomes just took it from him recently, and he's won 3 MVPs, correct?
I believe so, yeah. I'll check it.
Well, regardless, more trouble than he's worth on Aaron Rodgers. I suspect that that's not going to be Stugotz's opinion if it means coming to the Jets. And those, the Jets are the front runner on this.
Are
correct?
they?
Are they?
I have no idea.
They're the only team I hear associated with him again and again, except for Devontae Adams saying again and again that he thinks he's going to end up with the Raiders.
He has 4 MVPs. The Jets have asked if Aaron Rodgers will be available. The Packers have not responded. If they asked, I guess that makes them the front runner. I mean, I have no idea. I do like that the Jets have put themselves in position where maybe, their roster is attractive enough to Aaron Rodgers where he would consider playing there, but the Jets are going to screw this up. Dan, they are hiring coaches with attachments to every single quarterback because the Jets by themselves as an organization is not enough to attract one of these big-time quarterbacks. So they have hired Nathaniel Hackett, who has ties to Aaron Rodgers, and they hired another guy who has ties to Ryan Tannehill and Derek Carr. It's going to end up being Ryan Tannehill. I mean, this is a complete disaster.
Can there actually be a front runner when the person has locked themselves in a dark room for 4 days and their decision will be based on how they're feeling after essentially solitary confinement in the darkness? You have no idea what he's going to, what's going on in there and how he's going to feel when he comes out of there.
Put it on the poll, please, Juju, at Le Batard Show. Can there be a front runner when the star is locked in a room in the darkness for 4 days?
This is day 2 of darkness. I mean,
do we know when we started?
It's not.
I think he started right after the Super Bowl. He said
he's doing McAfee today, and then
right.
It's darkness.
Priorities.
Is this real darkness, or is this like LeBron 0 Dark 30, where he still has his phone the whole time and is just pretending not to?
I think it's real stimuli denial. I believe that it's going to be total darkness and total elimination of distractions.
If you're Robert Saleh, would you sit in the dark with him?
Well, you just
to show how badly you want. Hey, I'm going to sit right here with you through the darkness, in the darkness.
Yep. I think the Jets should send out a press release. Hey, Aaron, we've spent 40 years in the darkness.
We're experts.
Once 4 more days.
That would be brilliant. The Jets PR should do exactly that.
But how can you be at it's going to be a disaster, it's already a disaster when we just started flirting. Stugotz, I don't think
I got 40 years of history, Dan. I mean,
Stugotz, you have gotten to the point in sports and in old age where you get miserable about things before you can enjoy the you don't even do the enjoyment and then get miserable. You just get you're preemptive about getting to the misery first.
It's not my fault. It's what the Jets have done to me. Dan, who's the best quarterback in the last 40 years for the Jets? I mean, think about it. Free agents don't want to go there. It's Brett Favre, to answer your question. The 8-3 start was fantastic. After that, it's Chad Pennington. I think about what I'm saying right now. They never have had a franchise quarterback, a legitimate star
at the
quarterback position. They had Geno Smith. They wasted Geno Smith. He became a star a decade later in Seattle. I mean, that's what happens to the Jets. Why would I think anything good is going to happen to this organization? It's been 40 years of disasters.
The reason, Stugotz, I would say that this time could or maybe should be different is because this guy is never linked to your team. Right. You weren't in any of the sweepstakes for any of these big players. Who was the best? The last big free agent the Jets got is Darrelle Revis?
No, they drafted Revis.
Didn't he go back there? I thought he went back there a second time. Did I get this wrong? I thought he went back there. I don't believe that they've gotten. When's the last time they got a free agent?
Eric Decker. They
Oh
spend
my
money.
God, Eric Decker.
That's what I'm talking about, Dan. Like,
But this
why would
next-
I have
Brandon
any
Marshall, was
belief?
Brandon
you're-
Marshall a trade or a free
But you're
agent
never
deal?
associated
It was a
with
trade,
this player is what I'm talking about. Like if ever I were to believe that somebody could
LaDainian Tomlinson.
They got Brett Favre from the Packers. It was a disaster, but they did that.
It started off well. I mean,
when I think of the Jets, I never think of them being in play for this franchise-changing type of player who, if you're going to believe anyone in the league can regain previous form, it would be a guy who had a really bad season after two-time MVP.
Le'Veon Bell.
That's right.
Yeah, I remember how
Oh, that
excited
was
Greeny
big.
got.
Yeah.
So excited. Yeah.
Ruined his career.
The holdout.
Exactly. Yes.
But Dan, isn't what we're talking about right now, which is the Jets don't do this, a sign that the quote attributed to Peter King is a real thing? If the Jets are the number one option and the blue blood NFL franchises are not interested in this player who recently was a two-time MVP, are they also saying that it's not worth the trouble?
Do you guys believe
Oh,
that it's not worth the trouble?
I don't, not for a second. And I think last time I looked at the betting odds, I think the Raiders are still the favorite for Aaron Rodgers. I think maybe because of Devontae Adams, but
Greg, you're saying he's not worth it?
no, the opposite. I'm
Okay,
saying
good,
if you're a team like the Jets or the Raiders, the idea that you would not want Aaron Rodgers because of some invisible baggage of him being a quote unquote trouble. That is so patently ridiculous. If you think he has a chance to take you to the Super Bowl, bring the trouble. Just make sure your arm comes along with it.
Right.
You would rather have a troublesome quarterback like Aaron Rodgers than a meek and mild guy who's never going to give you a problem, but is going, 8 and 9 every year.
What's the trouble? He's more of, it's not like he's getting in trouble off the field. He's just, he's a pain in the ass.
He's quirky.
But I'll take it. It'd be the biggest day in Jets history if they were able to get him. Dan, I've said this all year. Joe Douglas has done such a great job from this standpoint. He has nailed every draft pick except the one he spent on a quarterback. But everything else is great. And if Aaron Rodgers says, hey, I'm the missing piece, then Joe Douglas has done his job. And so, yeah, you put up with whatever headache Aaron Rodgers is going to bring your organization, especially when you're that organization, a lousy organization. You should be honored if you get Aaron Rodgers.
I think that Mike and I disagree on this because I think Mike thinks that last season is a accurate appraisal of who Aaron Rodgers is now in the history of athletes and athletes at that position aging who aren't named Tom Brady. I would say to you, though, if you gave me in a dumpster something in sports that I would want to rehabilitate, it's guy with broken thumb on his throwing hand who was recently the two-time MVP. I believe that the reason he was bad last year is because something was wrong with his throwing hand. It may be that he just turned 37 or 38 and people assume that it's age.
He's 39 years old. It's fair to say he's not going to be as good as he once was. And yes, it's just as fair to say he had a broken thumb on his throwing hand. That seems important. But the fact remains is they had a really bad season. He was playing, and he had opportunities to win games, and Aaron Rodgers didn't do the Aaron Rodgers things at the end of the game. He did Zach Wilson things at the end of the game occasionally. He was unrecognizable sometimes.
Mike, the 2 seasons before that, back-to-back MVPs, he had 85 touchdowns and 9 interceptions.
Why are you telling me about 2 seasons ago?
Last year, he had 26 and 12. It would still make him the best quarterback in Jets history.
4 seasons ago,
Yeah.
Cam Newton was really good. What are we doing? He's 39 years old. This
And-
is usually the time.
Declines happen precipitously. It just happens from one season to the next. There are myriad examples of that happening. It just happens. And it would not be surprising. Aaron Rodgers is going to turn 40 next season. It's not going to be surprising if he ages normally.
You also just don't know with him, right?
Right.
Like, he's not a reliable guy. You don't know how long it's going to be for. So it has to be a team that thinks that they are one piece away for 1 year, and they're willing to take the risk for 1 year.
The Jets think that.
It started going for Breeze by now. There is one guy in the history of that sport to do it into his 40s at a high level. One guy. You can maybe make an argument that Favre, I think Favre was around that age when he had a solid year. But these are historical outliers. And I think what you're doing to Aaron Rodgers is extremely unfair to assume that he can just be the guy that he was 2 years ago.
Well, but the thing that I think is unfair is to have your analysis on a throwing in a throwing sport where you measure the value of throwing that has a broken thumb,
not.
and everyone shrugs their shoulder on what the impact of a throwing on a thumb being broken
not.
would have on throwing a football.
It's not. I think it's a fair point to make. Just as him being 39 is.